Good evening. Welcome to the Public Safety Building Committee meeting. This meeting is being recorded for cablecast and YouTube, presented by Area 58 Community Access Media. The video of this meeting is not to be considered an official public record. Okay. First on the agenda is approving minutes.
You need to do the selectmen too.
Ah, thank you. And it's a good thing I have Nancy next to me, and she keeps me in order. I need to open the Board of Selectmen as well.
I'll second your motion to do
All in
that.
favor?
Thank God we have a former town clerk
That's right.
sitting next to you.
Okay. So first thing is the approving minutes. Does anybody have any amendments for any of the 3 weeks? Let's start with the 27th.
Oh, I didn't get that one.
It's the
That's one of
24th. 24th or 27th? 13th, 20, 27th.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
the First Amendment is the date at the top. So, does anybody have any other amendments to the minutes from the 27th? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to accept them as written. No, as amended, amending the date.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, one down. February 3rd.
You got something different?
Yes, I do have something completely different. I'm sorry. I just amended my agenda.
Okay.
It's a long month.
6:04, John.
Okay. So then we don't even amend the date. We accept them as written. Okay, so that's fine. Now we're on to the February 3rd. Does anybody have any amendments for February 3rd? Does anyone need more time to?
I made a change to them. I had Nancy both here and not here, and so I removed her from
Is
being
he
not
there?
here and made her here.
Good.
I made that after. So it's already
Alrighty.
already been done.
Okay, motion to accept them as amended.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, okay. Okay, minutes for 2/17.
There was one place I thought I saw a typographical error, but I didn't mark it, so I don't know where it was. It was not, it had nothing to do with the content.
You need some more time, or are we ready to go?
I'll accept it.
Okay, I move that these minutes be accepted as written.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay. So, all 3 minutes accepted, John, except the one that you already changed. Alrighty, so we are stepping back just a little in order to move forward. And we are now going to include, we're going to look at what we've done already, look at the plans, look at the conceptual drawings, and come up with something that we can give to a consultant to give us a price on all 3, well, the 2 buildings and the campus as a whole. Then we will also come up with the ad or the RFP for the consultant. So, I'm not quite sure where.
Can anyone explain what the problem was with the original RFP and how we wrote it and sent it out?
Want me to try to take a stab at it? We only had to, we changed the scope of it. What they sent out was,
Police chief only. Police,
the police,
station
not
only.
the police building only. And if I recall, they wanted site preparation and building the building. All you want is just a cost estimate of the building of all 3 projects now.
So we never had a cost estimate on the whole parking lot.
Right, and we can't use this RFP because according to the state, once you change anything, you have to put it all out to bid again, because it could be that some other company would have bid, but they couldn't bid on this. So just by law, we need to cover ourselves. If we accepted a company that made this bid and we liked them and thought they could do everything, other companies that bid could actually sue us, could complain to the state and would be in trouble.
So we need to alter it to include the fire station.
And the whole campus,
And-
the redesigning, the
Parking lot.
parking lot and all that.
And narrow it, because we're really just looking for the cost estimate.
And we're only looking for cost.
In the issue may be that we are still not 100% positive on acquiring the extra land. I mean, until that is, an absolute done deal, do we really want to move forward with plans on the whole thing without that acquisition taking place? Would we be drawing plans that we wouldn't be able to use?
We're not trying, all we're doing is giving a number, and we're giving the number for a fire station, we don't have to give its location.
No. To get a construction cost for the town to vote on, we have to have a set of drawings generated. The site, the utilities, and the structures. Something that a contractor can bid on.
And that's more than 25 grand.
That's more than 25 grand.
And we won't know the purchase of the land until it goes to town meeting, am I right?
Right.
So,
So we're at a
so why?
standstill, right?
Well, no, so what ideally, in the ideal world, what would happen is we would, one, go try and purchase the land at town meeting, and two, do an article to make sure we have enough money to actually get what we need done. And then basically also, and then three, remove the 25 that was allotted previously. Isn't that's the way to do it?
Remove or use that as part of
Well, I think
the
it's always easier to give it back than to, but whatever, I mean, whoever, but, right, I mean, it's, so you'd offset it essentially, but then you would, one, if both things pass, you then have the land, and you have the money to get the actual real numbers that you need.
Because if we don't get the land, the whole design could change radically in the concept of what it is that we're attempting to do. So, I mean, spending money now could be a waste.
Well, it sounds like from what Harry says, we can't get costs because we don't have.
The way, it's an architect basically that we're looking for, to sit down with us and pick our brains as to what we want in each structure. Let them put something together, let them design it. After they get a design together and they sit with us and we say, okay, that looks good, then they put a cost on that design. And that cost, you should be able to go out to bid with. And that architect should be through the whole process, even handling the bid process, receiving the bids, reviewing them for us, and then ultimately, after we make the decision, awarding it.
And helping us with things that we don't know to ask.
Right.
But if it were modular,
That's a different story.
we don't need that extra cost. So, we're kind of going in circles.
But there's a piece missing even with modular. The piece that's missing is everything being tied together.
Yeah, you still need a site design. You still need your modular, your modular structures designed to our specs, not just something off the shelf. Now, the police station, we probably can take something basically off the shelf, but not the fire station. You could probably take the equipment bays, but there's going to be some design required there as well.
And then someone also has to design what this is going to look like when everything
And
is
if we want to include that, yes.
figured
Yeah.
and costs associated with that, and
Yeah.
so.
See, that was the whole point, I guess, in us segregating out the police station.
Yeah.
Because we thought we could get that done with the money that we were told we had available.
But then the cost kept bouncing between a bigger and
No,
bigger.
the finance committee.
Well, no, but we were talking at one point, we started at 1 to 1.2 million, and then there's been numbers thrown around at 1.5 or whatever. I mean, we don't have a number
No.
No.
there either.
Yeah.
And that's a,
We don't have a building to try and put a number to.
right.
And they feel that they can't go to town with just half of what we want to do for the future.
Okay, how about this? They have numbers for fire station.
What was that one?
Use this number.
Is that
Reinhardt. That's,
How much was it?
They did pretty much go through what you just said, that they would sit down with the individual chiefs, ask what you want, and although they haven't designed the facility, they gave us the square footage. And asked for our input. That's what Reinhardt did.
so, you know, I mean, here, it's a bit dated, I mean, by a couple of years, maybe, but it's gotta be a valid number with some escalator in there for inflation.
What was the cost per square
But
foot?
it was a much larger building than
Yeah, it's
this
not the
committee
same size
thought.
we're talking about.
Agreed, yeah. I broke out as best I could from Reinhardt's numbers, the police station and the fire station. I did nothing with the site. Reinhardt has money in there for relocation of the ball fields. There's money in there that can be pulled out completely. If we get the land out here, you're not gonna be doing anything to the ball fields. That's just the one item. But using the square footages that we've been talking about, 5,800 for the police, and I used, for the fire station, I used 9,000 square foot. Reinhardt had, initially, they showed 15,400 square feet. But if you go into their numbers, they used 10,900. So that's a little confusing. I took the square footages that we're talking about, and I backed them into Reinhardt's estimates. The police station, the other thing I did not do much with, other than just throw a percentage on it, were the contingencies, because we really don't know what they're gonna be yet. But I come up with 2,248,000 for the police station,
2.2?
2.2.
For the police?
No, it's like 2.5 for the police. And the fire station worked out to a total of 2.75.
Two?
Yeah, 2,756,000. But that's just a down and dirty square footage.
How much per square foot were they suggesting?
They were using 246 a square for the police, and the fire, they broke into two sections. They broke the admin portion away from the apparatus portion. They used 215 a square foot for the admin portion and 150 for the apparatus.
Now, I don't know if you could tell from that, is that including their 10% architectural fee?
Oh, yeah, no, I took all of the contingencies and I used those percentages to bump all my numbers up. The only thing I changed was on the fire station, they escalated the cost to 5 years, so they put 22.5% on the escalation. I only put 4.5 in to mirror what they did on the police station. Because if we go with the project all in one, you know,
And that's just the buildings, not any
those are
site
just the
work.
buildings.
So
There's no site work,
that's substantially more for the police station than we've been talking
but we've
about.
been talking modular. This is stick.
But
Prevailing
at some
rate.
point, somebody said stick could be comparable.
Let's stick with the 10% architectural fee included, so if
No, that's still, that number's still higher.
The only way it could be comparable,
Mr. Benassi,
Yeah, that's,
who seems to be very involved in this, and gave us the number 155,
Yes.
for stick construction.
For both?
For the,
155?
Yeah.
for the police.
Generally.
Oh, a
for-
square foot?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, no, that's,
Which,
I just used
Yeah.
their numbers to just at least back it down to our area.
Right, because they had bigger buildings and.
Well, I think it was Cardinal that estimated that between 200 and 350 a square foot.
Yes.
It's been nice, it should be a nice place to
What's that?
50 square foot. Can I move in?
Yeah, here's the sheet from Russ Bernassi, police and fire station lists. This was from November 30th, 2015. And, I mean, it varies. Chatham Police and Fire was $302 a square foot, $380, $480, $310, $287, $340, $509, and $446. Depend on, you know, Oak Bluffs and North Andover and Weston, and it appeared, but he did say that it was 150, I think, to 165 on stick-built. And that was, because the question came up, was that prevailing wage? And he said, yes, that was. So,
So our attempts to using modular construction would be considerably cheaper.
It is supposed to be.
Yeah, as long as you don't build into it more than the,
Anything above is gonna.
anything above their template, their initial template.
Yeah, you did the Reinhardt at 246
246, that's what they had for the police, yeah.
times 5,800.
Yes.
I'm coming to 1.4.
Yeah, but then you've got all your contingencies you've got to add on, and then they add,
Contingencies, excuse me, such as what?
okay,
List some.
design phase contingency, 8% for the design, 4.5% escalation for the midpoint of construction, then construction change orders, they threw in 6%. All of these
Add up.
are controllable, basically, you know?
But you don't want to not have them.
Right,
And then have an
right,
issue, you want to
right.
give the money back at the other end.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then they've got architectural engineering fee at 9.2%, site property survey, hazmat survey. We don't need a hazmat survey for the police station. We don't need it for the fire station. If we were gonna renovate, maybe we'd need a hazmat survey. They got $9,000 in there for that. Geotechnical engineer, borings, test holes, such. Materials testing, we're looking at what, concrete?
Yep.
HVAC. What else would you need a testing lab for?
Yeah.
Nothing. They've got $6,000 in there, I forget, like 3,900. They've got a legal number in there for $90,000. They've got $25,000 for printing your plans and specs. Advertising, $800. Then they get a project manager in there at 2%. That you could control, especially if you want to use a project manager from the town. You don't have to go with the architect, you know?
What are you doing for the next 3 years, Harry?
Pardon me?
What are you doing for the next 3 years?
And they've got a moving and relocation expense, police station, what's it gonna cost us to move you into a new building?
I could get labor from the jail
Well,
to do that.
that's what I'm thinking. These are all things I think we probably could control. Equipment, they throw $100,000 in there for the police station,
For equipment?
for equipment only.
Well, that's kind of close to what we were talking about. And, you know, new lockers, office equipment, yeah. So that's about where we estimated it at, if I'm not mistaken.
would that be cells too, chief? Jail cells?
Well, that would be part of the construction.
Okay, okay.
So, you know, we'd want 2, probably 3 cells, site sound separate, for juvenile and for women and men's cells.
The other thing that's hidden in here is where Reinhardt melded the two structures. There are areas in there that
Common HVAC.
are common, that I basically have broken out, so that I've got more cost in there. Well, you're going to have more cost
Right.
if you don't build it as one
Yeah. Are you satisfied with the package that the prefab is, they're giving you?
Who, the mod space?
Yeah.
I think that I am, but from what we looked at, I could, at this point, as long as it's a new facility, I'll look at almost anything, but if they could deliver what they promise at 5,800
Yeah,
square feet.
that's where the number gets when you start banging, changing walls and changing rooms.
You know what, I'd have to get a closer look, but I'd say, yeah, we could deliver what
Yeah.
they're giving us. The only thing I would like to change is, and I think anyone would agree, instead of pouring it on a slab, I'd prefer to do it on a foundation.
Foundation.
So, in case, and I think you guys would agree, that's a nominal, that's only a couple of $1,000 increase, but that's potential future storage space in the basement. File storage, evidence storage, it wouldn't have to be sprinkled.
Well, if it's evidence room, then yeah, you'd probably have to sprinkle it.
Well, not during this construction
No,
phase. If
yeah.
it's under 5,800, that's why we kept it under 7,000 square feet, so we wouldn't have to sprinkle it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing, after just some recent discussions with some construction experts, I would suggest that I would go with a full basement. It just makes sense where you're doing everything else, and it's, like I said, future expansion.
Does the basement square footage count towards the actual space, and would we go over the 7,500 square feet and then have to sprinkle it?
I don't think that it would.
It's not a living space.
No.
Right.
But you're not living in a police station either, it's a different assembly.
Would have to look into that for sure. Even if it's a partial basement, just, it gives us an option moving forward. I'm not thinking me, I'm thinking the poor guy that's in my position in 20 years, when he's busting at the seam and they're expecting him to get 30 years. No. Whoever's here in 20 years.
Does our building department have any kind of a library? Do they by any chance have any of the RS means?
Some of them,
Do they have the square foot cost?
no. They don't have any of that.
It might be something that, new, they go for like around $200, two and a quarter, something like that. You can get them on Amazon.com for about $139 used in good shape.
What I-
Paperback. RS means
They're
construction square foot costs. They give you square foot costs for all types of buildings and incremental parts of buildings, you know, like for a science lab, maybe even a jail cell, I don't know.
Yeah,
No.
they're right down the street too. They're a local company.
If we used a modular company, don't they supply the architects, the
Yeah.
design
But
professional
for the building.
for the building?
So you're not, but, so why wouldn't it be possible to have, instead of hiring an architect to come and do a full design and schematics of the buildings and all of that, why wouldn't they do that but incorporate the modular? Saying, when we're looking at a modular building, then they would be able to interface with the modular company and saying, this is the plan we're using, that meets your needs, okay, that's done. Now we're gonna do the site design for that and that, and do the same thing for like a fire station. Because that, to me, would be fitting in, you know, you're not gonna be paying the architect to sit and draw
Police station, yeah.
4 offices and a break room and all this. You're paying them to make sure everything is put together.
Right.
And that you're thinking about everything around it, but you'd sort of insert the modular. Or if you go down that path and we start trying to insert the modular, and they go, well, wait a minute, there's this issue, well, the cost now goes up to this, and the cost goes up to this, then you may have to say, okay, this isn't gonna work.
I think you'd be better served having the modular people build the building and then adapt everything to that, the parking lot, the site work.
Well, that's sort of the point, is that you would sort of, the goal would be that we're gonna do a modular police station, so the architect would be hired to say, okay, assuming that we're doing this, and make sure the architect would be able to help us make sure that it's meeting your needs. If we had changes, they would design it.
Right.
Right, their architect would make, we didn't move 2 walls here and stuff, and then do the same thing for the fire station, but then also put the whole plan together and be able to cost that out. I mean, the cost for the modular would be their cost, added to whatever else we would need to add for site work or add-ons that we're doing ourselves.
So that's basically, that's how we want to tailor the RFP.
Right.
Yeah.
I spoke to Monica from the Collins Group about this, and I mean, I think we want to be really careful that we don't get so hung up that we can't start this in a year. And she made a suggestion that I think makes some sense to me, because it feels like we're still sort of groping in the dark. We have some expertise here, but the rest of us is not so much, and the sooner we get some expertise in to give us the advice, the better. In any event, she proposed this for consideration, that we put out an RFP that then could be voted on at this year's town meeting. The RFP would ask for a conceptual site plan, a cost estimate, and a phasing plan for all the projects. Not
How about throwing the land in there too?
the purchase of the land? Well, that's separate. I mean, we
Yeah, you could send it out, if you're gonna go to town meeting for that money, go for that money too.
oh, we're going to go, I think the Board of Selectmen are totally on board.
We're
to
going for the
pursue-
land, whether we use it for the fire station or just to have it for
So
future.
that's a done deal.
We're going,
Conceptual site.
it's a done deal if town meeting passes it, and we meet agreement with the seller.
A conceptual site plan, a cost estimate, and a phasing plan for both buildings and the whole project. Again, not that we would necessarily do it all at once, but one of FinCom's concerns, and I think one of Board of Selectmen's concerns, was having a master plan, just knowing what the whole plan would be, so we don't build ourselves into a corner, or so we don't spend all the money up front and not have for the rest. So what this would, I don't know how much that would come to. I would guess the RFP might come in for 25 or 35 or 50 grand, but we get that passed this year. We then have an expert on board helping us, getting us to the place that next year at town meeting, we can present whatever we want. If we want
And ready to go.
We're ready to go with the fire station.
That's what they
or
talked about
with
at
the
Monday's
police
night
station,
meeting.
sorry.
Faux pas,
Pardon?
faux pas.
So rather than doing basically the same thing now with the 25,000 we have, we'll just,
Well, the 25,000 probably is not
It's
enough
not
to do
enough,
that.
She felt like it wasn't going to be enough, and she felt like we could just use that and add more. It might be cleaner to just give back the 25 grand and
Just
just,
you could put the RFP out in mid-May, right after town meeting vote, and for work to start in July 1st,
well, we put out this RFP now,
and then go get the money.
and then we know how much money to ask for at town
I see.
meeting.
Yeah, and then it's
And
just.
then we have an expert to lead us along the way, and we absolutely should be able to go to town meeting and ask for the police station next
Could we-
year.
Could we even ask, is it possible to even ask for that in the special? I mean, it depends on the finances, I guess, but if the money happened to be there in the special, then you could start,
No, we can't, because I think we'd be taking this from,
capital.
yeah, yeah, so we can't do special.
One more thing that did come up at last week's meeting, and I, given it consideration, I think perhaps having, and Bob brought it up, the president of P3 come over and talk to us for free. Wouldn't cost us anything, maybe to give us just a little more direction. Free is a good thing. And if he's the president, and he can offer some advice, maybe he could shed a little light on it, and we could, and if we gained nothing, so, we've learned something.
Now, I talk to him on an individual basis rather than bring him to the meeting.
I still worry that will taint him.
Yeah, so we
Yes.
won't be able to hire him in the future.
Yeah.
The finance committee mentioned if we did that, we could set ourselves up for a legal suit.
If,
You do it, but we have
If
to.
you're hiring them.
Yeah, if we end up hiring them.
Included somebody's getting an edge on other information,
do we have
rental
to
treatment.
frame the RFP to go strictly for a modular type company is what we're looking to hire?
I mean, I think we'd write into the RFP, the cost estimate, and help us decide whether we go with a modular or stick.
If we did an RFP for a modular company to give us price per square foot for this building and this building, and give us some of their potential numbers, and then we could pick one. Like, say, you said the RFP was designed for strictly modular companies to respond on a price per square foot of a fire station or police station. What would they charge us per square foot? Whether it be $100, $105, $110 to design architectural drawings, start to finish. Come in and do the entire thing for us, so that we're only looking at modular companies when they come in, and we separate out the site work if we have to. Or are we gonna still consider the stick-built? But if if we would save money architecturally, and the initial money we're trying to get at town meeting this year, can't we put that into the modular company who is gonna design everything for us anyway? You know-
I mean, I know what you're saying. I think the question is, particularly based on those comments we had back in November, is whether, is that cost differential fully there?
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of these new police stations, they probably have more than $100,000 worth of material, you know, of stuff put into them. So when you look at the end cost per square foot, it's up. I mean, how could somebody even 300, some are 300 and some are 540.
To your point, if they have, 10 male cells, 5 female cells, and 5 juvenile cells, it's gonna drive the
Cost
cost
is already
way up.
I think one of the things we're doing to keep the cost down is we're on a well, we'll keep the same septic system. We don't have a dispatch area, so typically that
And the
runs
dispatch area, okay.
about $1 million, according to
Right.
what I'm hearing. So we'll realize some significant savings in just those 3 alone.
I mean, I think there appears to definitely be benefit to the modular based on the initial things we heard, though we've also heard stuff that says it's not that different to do stick-built. So I think we need
the consultant
to help us say.
Yeah.
decide that, so we
Or
can,
yes, you can do that, and you're gonna save 20%, but this is what you don't get for that. And then you have to decide whether that's a savings or you're losing something.
so that would be, that's what the consultant would help us. You know, we've been tangled up with this in a year now, and we've come to absolutely no resolution on it. And, I mean, now we have sort of cost estimates from $155 a square foot to $250 or $300. And I think that's what the consultant would help
We
us
need
do.
someone to attend these meetings and give us answers to these questions, and that's what a consultant will do.
And not only that, but to also help us with what we don't even know we haven't asked yet.
Is that
I mean,
what
that's the piece that I really worry about.
Is that what we're
there's
spending
some-
the 25,000 on?
That was the
That person
initial,
to come and,
that was the initial thought, but
and even though P3 may not be doing the architectural drawings or the design, they're gonna help us get on the right path to someone else who will.
I mean, look, the modular company can provide us with architectural drawings.
Yeah.
And, I mean, some of us have some experience with that, but I don't know that we can say, oh, yeah, this is perfect. I'm not gonna know. You're gonna say, well, the rooms look like a good size. I mean, you almost want your own person to say, yeah, that makes sense. Because I would think that most of these modular companies are going to take off the shelf whatever they have done, or they're gonna take and just tweak it, because they're not gonna do a whole new building for you.
Well, I'd like
And
to
that's
take
not-
it a
that's
step
not-
further and visit a completed station, and to
Right.
see how it walks, to get in there and feel it out.
A modular type?
Yeah, even if I had to travel to New York or Pennsylvania or something like that to see what it is, see how it looks. You'll fly me out there.
You can drive, we can send them in the old black car. But, the architect is gonna be able to look at that too and say, I see a pain point here, right? You know?
So when we put out this last RFP, and we got 3 companies that we ended up basically liking, chose P3, it said stick-built or modular. So P3 was prepared to,
Does modular experience, correct.
so, why can't we put out the same type of RFP? And
Well, if I were to call him this week, what questions would I ask? I think, what do we need answers to?
again, I'm really afraid of
We would
poisoning that pool.
eliminate them, yeah.
A legal question, should we ask town council, if we ask these people some questions, are we tainting it, or should we I mean, they did respond to the RFP. I would think before we hire them, we should be allowed to ask them questions.
How much are we deviating from the RFP that was already?
Quite a bit when we only had the police station. The other one was everything.
Do we have a
Yeah.
copy of the
In
RFP?
truth, it's not
Actually, I
that
think I
different.
did.
It just, the thing we're adding, I think, is the big picture, the master plan. The specific stuff we ask for isn't so different. Review a preliminary site plan, placement, costs, creation of a development schedule. I mean, that's pretty much what we're talking about, what Monica said in different words. We're just broadening it enough that
So
we can
what's the
convince those.
difference? What is the difference between what we sent out and what we want to send out now?
The fire building and the rest of the campus.
Okay,
We're
including,
not changing that now, because now we have to have the whole package, the same thing that that said. What we were proposing was to have an RSP for just a police station, which we can't do anymore. We have to do that whole package.
Well, we could do that if we were sticking with the police station and
Yeah, but they,
costing
the
it.
finance division, everybody wants a whole package, so you don't have to write a new one. That's what that is.
Well, I mean, we just have to change the language a little, but
Right.
broaden the scope to be,
Yeah.
using the,
detail.
Monica was very concerned about the phasing plan. She's been through a million of these, and she said, you run into the problem constantly of just building the police station and missing the stuff of getting all the systems to the new place, and that you build yourself into a corner and, spend an extra $1 million. And that's particularly what we want to be careful on.
So one of our concerns was getting a price to the Collins Group in order to put it on the capital plan. How do we do that if we're waiting until after town meeting
No, I
to
think
even hire
Mark is
somebody?
saying that the RFP would go out to
Now.
get the price.
No.
No?
No,
No?
it would go out to get the price of hiring the consultant.
Correct.
And then,
Well, then you're just gonna have, I mean,
but then this doesn't get improved
Yes.
until town meeting.
throw the bigger numbers that Harry just came out with. I mean, it's gonna be, it's like some of the other things that have been thrown into the capital plan. They're just, I mean, they're not just made up figures, but they're not
They're not
solid.
No.
And I'd certainly put bigger numbers in than smaller ones.
And someone said that at the meeting, that they would rather have a high estimate than a too low estimate.
right.
So are we then saying that we would tell Collins
The
Group
table.
2.5 million for the police and 3 million for fire?
For lack of better numbers, I mean, we don't have any better numbers.
I think we can put that in as max.
And anybody have any idea on campus design?
The purchase of the land would be the holdup. In the event that it didn't go through, bad for us. It does change everything that we're thinking about.
Yeah. Well, let's say we just back it up a little and say we're going to change the entrances and do the police station. Campus, let's put a price for the campus design on that.
250? I mean, you have some decent work to do over there. You're gonna take some
Yeah.
stuff out and bring some stuff in.
Yeah,
and
especially if
put
you're
the
gonna
time
go all the way to the library.
Right, and dealing with this,
Site work is.
I mean, ideally, in an ideal world, you take it all out and you put it back in, because not that the parking lot's in great shape out there,
Right.
I mean, you can
Well,
get it all.
we're guessing higher, what, 500,000?
Knowing that that's almost surely down the road a while, I think 500,000
Yeah.
is reasonable. Leaves room. I mean, if we did the Mercedes version with playground and the whole bit, and, I mean, it's just an estimate.
That's where we were 7 months ago.
Yeah, right.
Well, but, I mean, it's, at least you set it up, but I mean, if you do things like you change the entrances and you move that around, and then, you're gonna, and the pavement alone would be a lot. It's just,
Avoiding interruption of service is huge. Because if we have to do temporary facilities, because we
Right.
can't use this entrance, then we're talking about a much larger number.
Yep.
right,
I mean, ideally,
you can get
this
this,
side done first, and then
and then maybe you do the library area, and then you can, and over, and then you do the, in front of this building, and, yeah.
It adds up unbelievably quickly. I did a 9 parking space
Yeah.
redo that was quickly $50,000.
You'd want a lot of work there, too.
What do they pave it with?
Not what you
I
would
was
expect
spending
for
10,000, so I was only off by a factor of 5.
When you ended up doing all the equipment work there to be able to change the grades and that's
I mean, it's
what
the same stuff we'd want to be doing here.
right.
So what were you thinking, Harry?
Just that if and when we get to the point that we want to go out to bid on this to a contractor, we want to make sure that what we're giving him is as complete as we can make it. Contractors, for quite a few years now, have been making their profit on change orders alone.
Yeah.
So if you don't have all your ducks in a row, and you have to say, well, like you were talking about the entrance, like you mentioned, all of that, they slam you then.
Yeah, we gotta have the land to do that.
Right.
Well, I think that's where the design really
And
has to
that's
be.
why this, you gotta, to
The
have
design and the specifications.
Right.
So,
We can't
then are we,
we can't even put together a master plan before town meeting without.
No one will get land, yeah.
we have
That's
to-
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're hinging everything on the fire station being there. And if it can't go there, then where do we go?
But so then the timing works out, okay, then, because you know you have the land or you don't, and then whatever you have now, and if, let's say you didn't get the land and you did get, you know, the consultant article passed, then you're gonna use that a little differently. You know, you're not gonna be able to plan it in with that.
Will Article 1 be on the warrant?
What's that?
Can we make it Article number 1 on the warrant?
I don't know. Depends how you wanna.
The selectmen can order the warrant any way they want, so.
And if we
So
don't
we
get
want the land first
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
before we went for the consultant.
Not necessarily.
No, there's too much.
It actually doesn't matter that much. I mean, what we don't want to do is the land to get turned down and then this to get turned down, and then we're absolutely nowhere.
We don't want to spend any money on any type of plans out there if we don't get it. We can't-
No, but if we don't get it, we still go forward with this. We want to do all the planning, and probably the first task would then becoming, where else can we going to put the police?
yeah, and we still want to go forward with the police station as soon as we can.
Yeah, if we don't get the land, you still have Collins's initial layout. You've got
Right.
property out here.
Right.
It's just that it's gonna cost you a hell of a lot more to prepare it.
Or we can put it in the ball field.
Okay,
Get
so,
it off the tape.
That was an inside list. So, okay.
so we're now content with putting out a new RFP to get costing for a consultant that we will take to town meeting,
Right.
and, I'm sorry, my mind just went blank.
Yep. Conceptual site plan, cost estimate, phasing plan for buildings and site work.
Okay, so our pressure is not as great. But it's still,
It is, I mean, it is and isn't, I mean, we need that number back, because that's good, but,
We'll need to know by March 28th that we are going to put such an article on, which is when the warrant closes. There'll be a little more time to change the language of the article, probably to maybe May 1st at the latest.
but that number, we need that number sooner than later, simply because.
The Collins
that
folks
needs-
want it.
Collins,
FinCom
want it,
wants it.
FinCom needs it, for like figuring out the budget for the year, and how the stuff comes out.
It won't be for the budget for the year, because this will come out of capital
But still,
stabilization.
they're
In
gonna
the
have
big
their
plan,
big
it's
plan
good to know.
for them.
And I mean, we roughly know probably that this is going to be, I hope we know, 35 to 50,000 maybe.
Well, I thought there was some scary numbers tossed around at one of the other meetings about the plan that you would need for, you know, the site work and stuff.
Well, I mean, we know,
When we roughly
get
get out there, they're
gonna
gonna tell us what they need, and we have to then understand where that number is and what we feel comfortable with putting out there.
So can we take that RFP now and tweak it, or do we want to give it to our subcommittee to tweak it? If we do it now, we can give it to Dale, it can go into the general ledger next week. If we give it
Give
down,
it to him now.
so, actually,
We have to do it now,
What is it
tonight.
gonna say? What will it say?
Mark, do you have a copy of that, so that,
the RFP?
Yes.
The old one?
actually, I'll make a couple copies. and-
What's the bad language in your community have out there? What-
It's just, it's narrow in scope, it just has the police building, it doesn't have anything about the fire building.
And the money that was appropriated has to be for both?
Yep. That's the FinCom, the Collins people and Board of Selectmen want hard numbers on both so that they, this is not what they said,
That's
so
what they
that
said that last week.
they come up with a master plan moving forward over the next 3 to 5 years.
Yes. No, Bob was asking a different question.
I'm sorry.
There was some concern about the language in last year's article that authorized the $25,000. And that language doesn't talk about fire or police, it just says consulting to help public safety. Yeah, public safety. So I think that money could be used for this, but it's not enough.
Wasn't the issue that it wasn't specific to us talking about having them draw plans? Wasn't that what we had? We were hung up, but I thought that was the thing more.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, if we wanted to hire people,
Mark's original.
I mean, we're not gonna
That's yours.
spend all of $20,000 on just this design. I mean, the majority of what we're trying to plan over here is the roadway, the entrance, the design, the utilities, the infrastructure, the placing of the police station, and any future connections for the new fire station. And that is the majority of what we need help with. I mean, the actual physical construction of the fire station is dig the hole, put foundation in, and get the building on it, and then all the utilities are there to connect. So everything is gonna be done ahead of time.
Right.
And the majority of this 25,000, I would think, would be spent prior to the fire station being built. I mean, I would say up to maybe almost $20,000 of the 25 being spent on that entire design, but it hinges on the purchase of the land, or putting the new fire station in the ball field.
I think all you gotta change
But
is that
everything is
first
pretty much
sentence.
on that side, and one would do on the other side. So we're not gonna exceed
more than that.
that 25,000. So can we hire someone now, or can't we?
No, this
With the way that
doesn't
it's
speak to the other, the prior building. It doesn't-
Yeah, my understanding is that this one's pretty specific, that we're asking for placement and cost for a police station. And in this broader scoped thing we're thinking about, we're asking for that stuff, but also for fire. That this
We're
isn't broad
asking for
enough.
2 buildings, we're also asking for,
Overall site,
Site, yeah.
site
and also the phasing
yes,
plan.
yes,
which is
absolutely.
Do we want to make it strictly modular?
No, I think it both in.
I don't think so. I think we want them to, we definitely want them to look at modular because we keep hearing that that's the way to go, but we also want them to provide their expertise that if they look at the modular, they say, well, you know, that's only X 10% or 20% or 30% savings, and this is what you're getting or not getting. We want them to sort of give you that, because you can always find something for cheaper somewhere, and usually there's a reason. So is that an okay reason, that it's just a better deal, or are we giving something up for the difference in the cost?
Have we looked at all at modular fire stations? I know Chief has looked at modular police stations, but have we even looked at modular fire stations?
I mean, I think opportunity, having a consultant there, is to kind of help you with that, because it seems to me that you have part of the building that could very easily be modular, which is more the staff area.
That would be
And then-
the office area would
And
be a
then, I mean,
modular.
where you're putting the equipment,
This is
The apparatus bay is
Kind of-
typically just
and
walls and
if it can
trusses.
go back there, I think we're much freer to be able to put in something that looks like a fire station. In other words, you're not, when we had it here hanging over the road, you're very concerned about what it looks like. Back there, equipment bay can be equipment bay. It's a box with
Federal
doors.
steel.
You'd have to change the scheduling to
Yes. Yes.
As simple as that.
This RFP, all we do is add the words, plus the fire station.
I think you'd add a bullet about placement of a
Why don't we ask Harry what his
2,000 square foot
recommendation would be?
modular under 30-boot stick-built fire station, and then I think you'd add in a bit about phasing.
Phasing plan for both buildings and site work.
Yeah.
Phasing 1, 2, 3, or just whatever
Just-
phasing they feel comfortable with.
Well,
So, John, you have the computer, do you want to type something up here? and-
Type something. I can't type all this out.
What are we using for the square footage of the fire station?
9,000?
9,000?
Whatever I want.
We'll stick with the 58, that's what we want.
That's the police.
What
the
what
police,
was the
we want
drawings
that
that we came up
yeah.
with was 95.4? When we were first,
How long are those days?
oh gosh.
No, get off that, just, it's good on square footage.
90, I think.
Yeah, just give square footage.
That's not his, that's not the big bay thing.
I think that's the 575-foot base, that one. It comes up to like 9,600 square feet.
The other one was larger.
March.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this is one we want.
Oh, this is 106 feet wide, 90 foot deep. So those are 90-foot bays.
What plan is that?
And
So this is a little bit bigger, so leave it at the 9,000, I know.
You can do 10,000 or less, and
10,000.
one of the things we're asking to
That's
do
fine.
is to take a look at that and say, do we need it?
That's a good
I
idea.
mean, we have some question whether we do need all that, and let the professionals say, it's nice to have, but
Yeah.
you don't need leather seats.
I think we're all comfortable with the under 10,000 square foot limit
Yeah,
fire station somehow.
So then on the schedule, the cost estimating would be by March 28th, or the week before, March 21st.
that's 3 weeks from now.
Well, it wouldn't, no, the schedule would all be post,
We need the price before town meeting.
No, I guess all we have to ask for is when, what we need for a schedule is when the RFP would be in, just so we have enough time to get it on the warrant.
right.
So the RFP would be complete by, we have this as April 27th. Oh, but then we have to choose by then. So we probably, if we do April 15th, that gives the subcommittee enough time to choose one. On May 1st.
What are we picking now?
Hold on, this was a schedule, this was a schedule, this is the existing RFP, right?
Yes.
So this was a schedule for them to do all this work, and then to help draft RFPs that we would then be able to use.
Right.
So all we're asking for is when it's not even,
We want an estimate of what the stuff is, the duties, when they're gonna let us know. So let us know this by,
yeah, I don't even know how to write this.
So it wouldn't even go in to the general ledger until next Wednesday, has to be in for 2 weeks. So that's your 3 weeks already.
so that'd be the 2nd, 9th, 15th of March. So it has to be in for 2 weeks, and they have to respond within those 2 weeks?
There's a time period.
Usually 10 days, was it some 10 days after or some, I don't know.
All right, so that's 2nd, 9th, 15th. And if they respond by April 1st, that gives us all of April to decide which one.
We don't have the numbers, and we don't even
And have the
decide
number,
before we
just
need to
plug
have
it.
we don't have the numbers to be able to, we're not gonna decide who we're getting until we have the money to pay them.
Well, what we'll need is the number to plug into the article, essentially.
But can't you add that figure in later? I mean, we've done it before.
We won't have the number probably by the 28th.
Right, we've done that before, even at town meeting, we've added a figure at town meeting. We don't like to do it,
Hate
but
to do
I
that,
didn't see the
but
case.
there should be plenty of time. I mean, there should be plenty of time.
We could say March 30th. That's the last Wednesday in March. Since the
Did they
general,
respond by then?
yes.
So do we have in the list of duties, a conceptual site plan, or some words to that effect?
I don't know what would it mean by reviewing preliminary site plan tie-ins to existing infrastructure? We have a bunch of stuff to give them, right? But aren't we really asking them for the duty is to develop the conceptual,
Yes.
develop conceptual site plan that includes placement of the 5,800 square foot modular and/or stick-built police station, the 10,000 square foot or less fire station. We also have a,
We should steal some articles from what other towns wrote. But I didn't mean steal, but have Nancy get them.
yeah.
reconfiguration of the town campus site. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Costing of the project. Creation of development schedule. Because we're not asking them to, are we asking to create, well, I don't know. Would we be asking them to create RFPs and bidding documents too? Are we still doing that? Probably. Who else is gonna do it? I mean, when we figure it out,
We need something to take to the next town meeting.
and then when they say, sure, go spend the money, we need something to
Yeah.
bid out with.
We need something to bring, to not, I mean, this year's, I mean, but the next year when we actually go and ask for the amount. Not to exceed $19 million for your police station.
Yeah, I think probably we do need that, and maybe just with some words to bring to May 2017 town meeting.
We presently don't have a preliminary site plan that includes the fire station.
Right.
We do, we just don't like it.
No, well,
We have the conceptual
the
one.
initial one, yeah.
But we didn't even look at whether we like how it's placed or what it's done. I mean, we don't even know what,
Yeah, we can take,
we don't even know what the police station potentially looks like.
our original one, John, we can take the size of it and say this, we're gonna move it here.
And we have a plan. We got a plan at one of the meetings that
Yes.
shows it on the new land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in someplace.
I never saw it.
Okay, maybe that was when you were missing.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, but it was just sort of, it could fit there.
Right.
It was just a one line, right?
It was just a rectangle driveways with a rectangle
Yeah,
there,
okay.
and, you know, there's room in that space to put a fire station.
That's not it. I asked to put all the papers in here.
Okay.
I didn't bring my package.
I didn't come in either,
Yeah, I don't,
because I have all of the plans, copies of them.
I already checked that RS Means Building Construction Cost Data Book, $213 on Amazon,
That's not very good.
That's new,
2016, yeah.
yeah. But they do have used ones, paperback, for as low as
Do we need to put in that the work would not
This
begin
isn't
until
gonna be
July
done tonight.
1st?
I can tell you that right now, because I don't understand what some of this stuff is. I can help pull together the bullets and email them for what we think should be here, but I don't understand what I don't understand what we should be saying here based on what is typically asked of people. Because this was for something very specific, where we were asking them to essentially put together our bid documents for the police station, and we're asking for something kind of different. And, you know, but I still think when if we go down this process and they go and say, and we come to the point where we say, this is the plan we like, then we want the costs on those different things. I think at that point, we would want to say, okay, now that we like this, we can see the phasing, we have input from Collins Group report, we have input from FinCom, and we say we're going to build a police station in 2017, then we want them to be able to put together the bid documents for the police station so that, and the resulting site work and systems that we need to put in for later phasing.
Would you want to get that specific, or would you want to leave it more broad?
But, right, but I think that that needs to be a reasonable expectation for the point of them being able to put a proper bid to it. Because otherwise, if we leave that piece out, they're gonna be done, they're gonna look and say, well, no, we agreed for this much money to do this. There was nothing about writing up an RFP.
Yeah.
Nancy, the warrant articles that we did for the Dennett Elementary, when we did it, Susan Ossoff brought it up the other night, that they came and asked for some money for design, and then they got the design, then they went to town meeting the next year.
Right.
Do we still have those warrant articles stashed somewhere?
Yes, we
We have them stashed someplace in the town hall.
Yeah, they're in the.
Can you pull those out and see the wording in them? Because it's basically, we're doing the same thing, but inputting police and fire, because they did the site work in the Dennett, adding the addition, the renovation to the existing structure, and it was over a 2-year period, so it must be 2 separate articles over 2 years that we would be looking at. I would think we'd want to write something very similar to that.
The thing that might be helpful is one of these, I think it was P3, or maybe it was the other one, gave us a list. They broke out the costs for various stuff, and they list all the other services. They came in at 24/7, but they showed the additional options that came to 76,000.
So it's,
And I think maybe we should just go right down that list and see what else there is on there that we want to include in this. I agree with John, I think we need another week. Could agree on this by next Wednesday night.
Tonight.
I mean,
So
I'm happy
Cardinal
to,
did that?
I think it's Cardinal here.
Actually,
I'm happy to take
you're probably more
initial,
familiar with looking
swag
at
at
it.
what we have, just to get in some of our thoughts in here, but then I think you need input from Dale or whoever to understand what types of, we also should be telling them that, there should be something in here that they understand, they're giving us estimates that we're then going to go, in other words, we're not gonna hire them in April.
We put out RFPs
Right,
for
I mean,
school also.
you know, we're gonna be, getting the RFP in order to get a number during the town meeting, it was something.
I think we should put that in. RFP voted on.
This is a,
Money
design
appropriated at town meeting, starting work
Let's see if
July
it's a-
1st.
We did copies of all the RFPs for the school also. All those filing cabinets and then notes there somewhere.
I think they are. I think we have one whole filing cabinet for just Dennett School.
I think that's,
The RFPs for the school and everything should probably be
Architectural-
very similar to what it
architectural-
is Joanna's trying to write.
contractors group, ACG.
ACG, yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be the one I was looking at.
I'm pretty sure
See if they were in.
Christie's and Keith's and I were in there.
That's the one I think it might be in.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we asked her to come up with something
P3.
that we will look at next week. Nancy, are you comfortable looking for the
John's
deadline?
gonna-
I will tonight, I will edit some of this based on our discussion.
Okay.
And I'll email it to both of you.
Okay.
And then hopefully then Dale can take that and correct major things that we have put in that we shouldn't have, or hopefully can add any input about what else should be in here, given what we're asking for.
But I also think
Stuff tonight, 'cause they.
Harry's been making all kinds of notes here, and he's very familiar with this. I think he should have some input in this RFP, if he's willing to do it.
Well, ideally, we should, the whole group should get it Monday. So that we can all add to it.
That's kind.
So if you do a first draft, we get it to Dale, he adds, he must get this to us Monday, so everybody has a chance to look at it, and then by Wednesday night,
We should be able to.
we should be able to think it to completion.
Okay.
But do you want to have Harry's input before it even goes out?
Sure.
Yes, what you're looking at, Mark, what you're looking at
Yeah.
for an outfit like these people here to put this together, they have to have design drawings.
Yeah.
The only thing in here that is with a clerk you can pull out of there, but other than that, you need to, there's no way they can do a cost estimate for you without drawings, without drawings and specifications.
Yeah.
And,
And I'm talking a cost for the project, not,
and that may be that the drawing comes from a modular company, but if that doesn't work, then we have to do drawings.
right,
So there's almost a range of what that could cost.
right.
Why did Cardinal submit something now? They got design management 8 hours a week for 10 weeks.
The 10 weeks, yeah.
But no more, and then they have.
Well, that's what they're saying,
The
it's
additional
just-
costs.
This is just 3 months.
Right.
We're projecting 3 months, that's all.
I see.
Three months worth of design.
Yeah.
And then the additional up costs of the additional options, it was at 11,200.
It came in just under 20.
And they've got everything in here that we're looking for, but,
But it was 76.
But there's
plus with.
But in your,
these are
in your,
guesses.
in your, shall we say, your esteemed opinion, since you've been retired for a little bit, is that there's no way we're gonna do this for 25 grand.
No.
We're up.
Yes.
So, okay.
No, because we never even gave them a rough drawing of what we were thinking about.
Right.
Landscaping and all the rest.
Yeah, all we have is.
It's a very
just-
frustrating process, isn't it?
Just, well, it's frustrating when you do with, you, your wife, and your contractor just on your own house. So when you try and put it into a bigger thing here with multiple buildings and site, it's hard,
Now
it's not
you- Now
easy.
you're trying to please more than you.
When I first started, I started as an estimator.
That's the problem.
My boss would throw a set of plans in front of me.
Right. But then you
Give me
would say,
quantities.
okay,
You know, they generate an estimate, and then they go back to the client and say, this is what this set of drawings is gonna cost you
I
to
need
build.
1,000 light switches, I need 1,000 phase
Right.
plates, I need, right down to everything.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So everyone has their assignments for the week?
Sorry?
So mostly I'm just getting that I don't have to do anything this weekend.
John will prepare something, send it to Dale. Dale will be instructed, asked to get it back to the whole committee by Monday. Nancy, you will look for Bennett School
Yes.
material so that we can look at it on Wednesday. We'll make a final draft of the RFP then. Dale will put it in the general ledger. It'll go out the following Wednesday. I guess we could still keep to the March 30th timetable. Maybe we bump it out. We'll talk about that next week. Does that sound like a good plan, everybody? Any other input?
Long enough, I can actually read that.
Make a motion to retire.
Not yet,
What?
not yet.
I'm already there.
Done yet. You on new business? Okay.
All right. So the next meeting will be next week at 6 o'clock.
I think Warren has something to bring up.
Warren, do you have something to add tonight?
I do not. I think there's some things addressed where I needed to talk about, I took over. Thank you.
I need to take over.
I think he was talking about real retirement.
Second?
Yes.
I need you.
Can I make a request that I get a copy of the minutes? I haven't in the last few meetings, just so that I can keep track of them.
Okay, so next meeting, March 2nd, 6 o'clock, in this room. And we will move onward. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Motion to adjourn, Board of Selectmen? All in favor? Aye. Okay.